Alright, what's going on, y'all? I'm at the ranch here. There's a farm in the background. See that horse right next to me? Let's see if we can get him in this shot. See right between that window over there? Let's fucking zoom in with this cocksucker. No, I guess I can't, eh? Let's see if I can get a shot of it. There's one big horse there. There's a fuckload of horses over there. There's the one walking around over there now. There's one back there wearing a pink coat. I don't know if you can see that in that shot. My tint is making it harder. Maybe I'll take it out after and take a look around. But yeah, there's a whole fucking whackload of them here. Horses. It's a fucking ranch I'm at. I'm at a fucking, literally, I'm at a fucking horse ranch. Where my daughter rides. Anywho, so yeah, that's what's up. Fuck, the last 3 days have been fucking beautiful. Today's a little bit chillier again, but still not terrible. But I want to talk about some shit today. I want to bring it to what? How do I say this? Sorry, my buddy's texting me. Anyway, so I want to discuss the Bible, maybe, but well, how do I want to put this? Okay, I guess this is going to be an episode for those people who are messaging me about the Bible. Now, I think overall they got the point that I was trying to get. I mean, even if they didn't, it doesn't matter. My point still stands that you shouldn't worry about what Thunder Wizard says about the Bible and all that shit, so don't worry about it. But Shakespeare wrote the Bible. Most people think and know that 1611 Shakespeare wrote the Bible, okay? But Shakespeare didn't write the Bible because it wasn't Shakespeare. It's another dude. There's another guy. Shakespeare, the man who William Shakespeare is. He's written like 6 signatures in his entire life. Most of them weren't completed. He was illiterate. His whole family was illiterate. His daughters were illiterate. These are facts out there. And there's many documentations and people on record saying that a guy named Francis something, okay, I'll get it after, is the one who actually wrote the fucking Bible. Who's a Mason. Illuminati. Skull and Bones, those kinds of fucks. So, first thing I want to get out of the way is for all the Christians out there condemning the Illuminati and Masons that use a King James Bible, because anything from 1611 on, maybe even prior to that, the first King James Bible apparently was edited by this dude, this Mason. So, any Christians out there saying the Illuminati's bad, killing the fucking world and all that shit, it's like, buddy, the Illuminati edited your Bible and added their own Masonic shit in there. Potentially even gematria. I don't know if that's accurate or not, and I don't care. But potentially there's even that added into it as well. The point is, this inspired book by God, apparently, this book is supposed to be inspired by God. It was written by some of the most... Oh, the dog's out there chasing a fucking horse to do something. Fucking good dog, man. The dog here is fucking awesome. It keeps those horses in line. Anytime the horses try to get out of the fucking fence or whatever, it's on it. It's like a sheepdog or whatever. One of those sheepdogs. But yeah, it just booked it and stopped the horse that was getting all wild. And just looked at it and the horse stops. And just pees back out. It's fucking awesome. Anyway, so, like I was saying, these fucks, me, I'm part of that crew. I'm Illuminati, okay? This isn't a fucking me doing a skit, okay? Those guys wrote your Bible. They edited it. That's right, they edited it. One in particular. I want to talk about that today. So, this is not to get people back on the whole Shakespeare 1611, what is this Bible thing, what's the real version of this Bible? But, in a sense, the Bible is before King James edited with Masonic help and was supervised by supervised by the king himself and his fucking political people or whatever was there. They supervised it, and there's no record, there's no nothing of what was done, changed, and all that shit. Well, I mean, we know what was changed from before and after, but I'm gonna play my man Robert Seffer here for you. He is among many things, but he is, I always get it wrong now. I'm an archaeologist, but I can't remember the name now. But anyways, he's done a really good episode a while back about who wrote the Bible, and he gives you many Masons proofs of what I'm telling you, and not even just that, other people, whatever else. So I'm going to play a brief clip of that right now for you, and I'll come back and I'll discuss it. Now, I'm going to try to keep tying this into demons and archons and doing that, because I'm supposed to do a part 2 to my other part 2 that I'm part 1 that I did already. And which, won't be too hard, considering if Illuminati, Mason people edited the Bible. Well, let's get into what the Bible talks about and why they left out the book of Enoch with the Watchers and all that shit in it. Archons and Watchers and Giants and Nephilim. Why was that left out? Why did the Illuminati Mason, my brother Francis, leave that shit out? It's a good question. I'll channel him and I'll tell you exactly what the fuck he's going to tell me to tell you. Got it? Cool. Anthropologist. He's an anthropologist. Sorry, just wanted to add that in there real fast. All right.
Two supreme masterpieces of literature that seem to stick out above all others, that were both published in the city of London within 12 years of each other. The first is the King James Version of the Bible, which was published in 1611, and secondly, the collected works of William Shakespeare, which was published in 1623. The King James Bible was put together by 6 groups, comprised of some 54 translators, of which we know very little about. Not one of the translators has left any literary work which would justify the belief that they were capable of writing the more beautiful portions of the Bible. The revised translation of the Bible was undertaken as a national work, carried out under the personal supervision of the king, but every record of the proceedings has disappeared. The British Museum does not contain any manuscript connected with the proceedings of the translators. As for the Shakespeare works, the reputed author, William Shakespeare, not only had illiterate parents, illiterate children, and no formal education, but judging by the reputed author, William Shakespeare, not only had illiterate parents, illiterate children, and no formal education, but judging by the illegible and incomplete 6 signatures he left behind, he was more than likely illiterate himself. Not a single letter or poem has ever been found in Shakespeare's own handwriting, a man credited with writing 36 plays and over 150 sonnets. He is considered a literary genius, allegedly producing so much, yet couldn't find the time to teach his own 2 daughters to read or write. Most of his writings concern the lives of the aristocracy, of which he himself was not a part of. So how was he so familiar with their ways? That said, many people who are familiar with the material agree that the likely author of the Shakespeare works is Francis Bacon. The speculation regarding this goes all the way back to 1598.
My man, Mr. Francis Bacon, oh baby.
The year Shakespeare's name first appeared on one of his plays, when more than one of his contemporaries published about recognizing Francis Bacon as being the actual author. Francis Bacon was an English philosopher and statesman who served as Attorney General and Lord Chancellor of England. His works are credited with developing the scientific method based on inductive reasoning and observing nature. Bacon died at the age of 65 of pneumonia and had no heirs. As for the King James Bible, a book published in 1905 by William Smedley puts forth the theory that Bacon rewrote the translator's manuscripts to produce the literary masterpiece that is the King James authorized version of the Bible. Smedley exhibits remarkable insight into Bacon's motives and provides evidence to support his contention that Bacon edited the final draft of the translations, concluding that, quote, there was only one writer of the period who was capable of turning the phrases with that matchless style which is the great charm of the Shakespeare plays. Whoever that stylist was, it was to him that James handed over the manuscripts, which he received from the translators. That man made havoc of much of the translation, but he produced a result which, on its literary merits, is without equal. Please keep in mind that Francis Bacon was a 33rd degree Freemason, and it is said that his agenda revolved around encoding the text with gematria, which is an alphanumeric code of assigning a numerical value to a name, word, or phrase based on its letters. One should also note that the word Lucifer was added in this edition, where in Isaiah it says, "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning?" While this line stirs up a lot of controversy, we can get a better understanding of its context from another high-level Mason, Eliphas Levi, author of The Mysteries of Magic, who says, quote, "What is more absurd and more impious than to attribute the name of Lucifer to the devil, that is, to personified evil? The intellectual Lucifer is the spirit of intelligence and love. It is the Paraclete. It is the Holy Spirit, while the physical Lucifer is the great agent of universal magnetism." In her book, The Secret Doctrine, Helena Petrova Blavatsky says, quote, "Lucifer represents life, thought, progress, civilization, liberty, independence. Lucifer is the Logos, the serpent, the savior." Another 33rd degree Mason, Albert Pike, is quoted as saying, "Lucifer is divine and terrestrial light, the Holy Ghost, and Satan at one and the same time." In this context, the light bearer is not a person with a pointy tail in a fiery pit, but a force of nature which has potential for what, from our perspective, could be defined as good or evil, rather than a devil with a pitchfork made popular in contemporary movies and cartoons. I covered the Holy Ghost in a video last week. I'll include a link in the description if you'd like to see it. In his book, Morals and Dogma, Albert Pike once again says, quote, "Lucifer, the light bearer, strange and mysterious name to give to the spirit of darkness. Lucifer, the son of the morning, is it he who bears the light, and with its splendors intolerable blinds the feeble, sensual, or selfish souls? Doubt it not." Another proponent of this line of thought in regards to...
Wow, eh? What a good looking man Manly P. Hall was. Like, fucking sexy. And I'm not gay or anything like that. But those pictures of him, one with the girl, and the one coming after, he's a good looking fucking man. I seen him as an old man. And, you know, you can kind of tell that he was probably a good looking man as a kid. But, fuck, he looks like... What does he look like? He looks like somebody, like an actor. Somebody from a movie. Cross between like Tony Stark's dad and Shia LaBeouf or something like that, or there's somebody else. No, the guy from Musketeers, the Three Musketeers, the one that's the newer version, of course, or the guy who plays Gaston in the newest Beauty and the Beast, which is the same guy from the Three Musketeers. That's who he looks like. Fucking, it was bugging me. Sorry, I had to tell you guys that. Anyways, let's go back. Let's look at Manny P. Hall. He's a good looking man. Honorary 33 degree Mason. Love the man. Love Manly P. Hall. I think he literally was trying to help humanity the entire time. Every philosophy, every lecture he did, was his intention was not to trick or whatever. I think it was completely and utterly to try to help us. I really do. And he is astounding. And as Robert will go on to say, he literally wrote the book on Masonic symbolism. And I think what Manly P. Hall says about it was there's more Masonic symbolism in the King James Version, edited by Francis Bacon, than in these Masonic fucking cathedrals. It's pretty evident that the Bible was created by a Masonic initiate, or a Masonic, more like a Masonic adept, which was Francis Bacon. Very successful person in general. But anyway, so last night I spent almost 3 hours listening to a Christian woman. Well, Protestant? I don't know what denomination she was. But because, you know, one thing I pride myself in is listening to both sides of the argument. So I think Robert Zephyr is pretty neutral, but in the same sense, especially in this, you can get kind of the feel that Robert is on the side of Illuminati, which is whatever, Christianity's bad kind of deal. But he's trying to do it as without trying to tell you what side to listen to or believe or take, what side to try to take. He's trying to do it without that. But his evidence is mostly swaying towards that side, which is great, you know, it's awesome. But I wouldn't be doing my due diligence or my job right if I just solely listened to things that I agree with already. Like, I already agree with everything he says. The reason I'm playing it is because I want people to know that, you know, the Illuminati or the Freemasons, you know, fucking edited the Bible. For which reason, I don't fucking know. But the archetypal stories. Let's just go back to William Shakespeare, for example. William Shakespeare did not do those plays. It was Francis Bacon as well. He had the ability to write like that. This is him. He might even have wrote the fucking demonology book that King James so-called wrote. I wouldn't be surprised. But anyways. And yeah, King James really hated women and witches. So there's a really good chance he was fucking gay. Or... And I don't mean that in a bad way, because I know I know a few gay men. They don't hate women. They hate certain women that act. But most people don't like those women either. You know what I mean? It's like those guys that nobody likes. You know, women hate those guys, just like men hate those guys. But what I'm trying to say is, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. Sorry, back to Bacon and Shakespeare. Shakespeare didn't write those plays, it was Bacon that wrote those plays. So anybody trying to tell you that Shakespeare's a real dude, yeah, he is. But he's not the one who wrote those fucking plays. He's not the one who wrote the Bible either. You know, that was Bacon. That was Francis fucking Bacon. Now, where the fuck was I going with that? Okay, so in those stories, it's all about, you know, it's people in high place stories. It's archetypal stories like Anthony and Cleopatra. You know what I mean? Romeo and Juliet. It's rich family fucking drama. You know what I mean? These stories. King Lear, all these fucking plays and stories are of, what is it called, Aristotle? I think that's the word for that, you know, whatever. I don't really know what that means, I'll be completely honest with you. But it's archetypal stories for rich people. William Shakespeare was poor. Even if you take Thunder Wizard's point of view, where he says if you were a playwright or someone write plays or even an actor, you were the lowest of the low back then. You know what I mean? So it would make sense that someone like Francis Bacon, who's in a high place, who's got this gift, it's busting at the seams, from somebody who knows what it feels like when you have so many ideas, so much stuff in your mind that if you don't get it out, you can't sleep. That's how I am. That I don't make these videos. I haven't been sleeping well at all, and it's because I'm making one video a week. I need to make at least like 4 videos a week just to fucking sleep, okay? Get all these ideas out of my head, but I'm just too fucking busy. Which is the sad part, because then I lay in bed not being able to sleep, saying I need to get to sleep for fucking work, and then I can't fucking sleep. But it's like, well, why don't I just make a video? Well, because, I don't know. My wife will get mad. Like, you're not sleeping, you're making videos at night. It's like, well, I can't sleep, so that's why I'm making videos at night. Anyways, I don't know. Maybe there's some issues that are going to work out. So there's definitely some issues that aren't going to work out. That's pretty evident. But the point I'm trying to get at is, if you take Thunder Wizard's example of William Shakespeare being a broke-ass motherfucker who no one liked, and actors were just there to please the rich. Francis Yates is in the audience with all his fucking Masonic rich motherfucking buddies, watching the play he wrote, letting Shakespeare get credit for the play because he can't be associated with that. Okay, let's just establish that right there. And it doesn't change much. You like Shakespeare, that's great. You hate Masons, who cares? You like the works of the Masons. Now, he's got many books. Francis wrote many books. Some of them are literally about archetypes, mythologies, and shit like that. So when you compare his works to the Shakespeare works to the Bible, all these things are exactly the fucking, not exactly the same, but they're very similar. The style of writing and everything is just, it's uncanny how similar it is, you know? But anyway, that's just why am I talking about, why am I bringing up Francis and Shakespeare? And why am I trying to tell you that Shakespeare didn't write those plays that Francis did? Why am I trying to tell you that Francis edited the Bible? What's the point of all this? Well, the point is that most people are against the Illuminati. Most people are against the Masons. They think they're fucking evil, some bad thing, part of the world. And like I've said, there's no group that is all good. I'm sure there's some bad within those groups, but there's also good within those groups. This is a law. Okay, duality and polarity is within everything. It's a fucking law. There's nothing out there that is all bad. There's nothing out there that is all good. It is literally, physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, passionately impossible to break that law. Like the beer store, for example. The beer store's right in front of me. Is the beer store good or bad? Well, you know, beer, too much beer, can make you fucking have a beer gut, make your wife not like you, make you lazy, make you, you know, drunk. You can go drive and have an accident. But it's one way that the government gets fucking a bunch of money by selling the fucking beer and be able to fix the roads and keep the water going and keep our whole culture going. Only that, people come home from work and they can have a few beers instead of having a bunch of shots and getting really stupid off alcohol. So beer was able to slow things down. Not to mention, way back in the day, when beer was first invented by the Egyptians, they were having a crisis where the water they were drinking and washing in, which probably part of the problem, shitting in, pissing in, washing in, you know, got so contaminated that if they drank it, they died. If they didn't drink it, well, you die if you don't drink water in a few days, right? So they're fucked. Well, they took their beer. It's like all their beer, started adding it to some of the water, and then drank it. And they had some good parties, but they saved it because they sanitized the water and was able to drink it again. So beer is all good and bad. What am I? I'm fucking good and bad. Probably more bad than good. Who knows? I'm trying to help people out here that are interested in the same stuff I'm interested in. But at the same time, I end up going after somebody like Thunder Wizard who's also trying to help people. You know, that's not good. It's not nice. But, you know, it is what it is. I have children that I try to raise to the best of my ability, but sometimes I fuck that up. Sometimes I get mad. Sometimes I punish someone who's not warranted. Sometimes they prove me wrong and out of spite I just do stupid shit because I'm human. No one is all good or all bad. Okay? So, that all being said, there might have been some fucked up people in the Illuminati and the Masons. But to judge the whole group by one fucking person is wrong. Not only that, there's probably a good fucking reason a Mason edited the Bible. More than that, there's probably a better reason for the church to want to disprove and shit on Masons and whatever. I listened to it for 3 hours last night to this girl go through all the reasons why King James wrote the Bible. Seriously, like he retranslated, edited it, and did it all by himself. And how it couldn't be Francis Bacon. And after listening to her, because I was waiting for all the facts and the points, because I was like, okay, well, if she's right, then I'm wrong, and then I can't make this video. You know, simple as that. It's like, yeah, it sucks because I had a bunch of good ideas and it's going to be cool. But it's like, no, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I don't want to put the information out there wrong just because it's easy to make a video, because it's going to be cool, because it's, you know, Illuminati. I love that shit. I live for that shit. I am Illuminati. And it's like, you know, the Masons are attached to Illuminati, but they're not Illuminati. But, you know, a lot of Masons are, whatever. Illuminati is like this elusive group that's, you know, the Bavarians, whatever, made it in, I can't remember the dates now, but then it was dismantled, and people just assume it's still there. So, I grab onto that identity, that thought form of high illuminated people fucking this world up. I take that on myself and I try to fix the world. People are going to give me my power, that I have the power to control world events. If the Illuminati is a group that you can identify with that can control world events, well, you're going to boost your power like tenfold. To me, it's just no bueno. I'm just going to fucking do that, and then, you know. But anyway, that's besides the point. That's not something I want most people doing, getting themselves into trouble. But, you know, I probably already got myself in trouble. So what the hell? As long as you got to get in trouble to find out the right way. Another reason why good and bad is within everything. What are you learning more from? Mistakes or doing things right? Well, you do things right all the time, you don't know what you're doing, then all of a sudden you make a mistake. It's like, oh, that's why we don't do that shit. It's like, well, yeah, no shit, buddy, but it's not always obvious to people, right? Anyways, so, fuck. I wanted to point out Manly P. Hall. He was a good-looking man, and then I fucking went off on a tangent. But it's alright, it's alright. I'll keep going. A little tired, a little hungover. I don't drink often, and I always have rum in the house for the spirits, for the people I work with, for the things I work with, for my nganga, for a bunch of shit. Last night I took a few shots, and it doesn't take much. And it was like, woo! So then I took a few more, and I was like, woo! Then I took even a few more, and I was like, woo! Okay, no more. Probably about 8 shots later, and I'm like trying to put together all these fascia fucking pieces of fucking aluminum to make my own trough for my fucking garage, which is working actually pretty good. I'm gonna have to use a fuckload of gutter seal though, but it's gonna fucking work pretty good, I think. But anyway, so yeah, that's what I was doing, bending metal like a motherfucker, connecting metal like a motherfucker, crimping the metal, forging the metal, not forging. I wanted to see if I could get my propane torch hot enough, but I couldn't. But anyways, so, what was the last thing I was talking about? Fuck me. I know I was getting on the groups. No group is all bad or all good. But anyway, so when it comes to Illuminati and the Masons helping out with the fucking Bible. Oh yeah, I listened to that bitch last night. Sorry, she's not a bitch. She's just somebody who's, has strong beliefs in the Catholic faith. And the idea of a Mason editing the Bible is just too much for her to handle. It just hurts her so bad. And that's the problem. So she's lived her whole life being programmed by the King James Bible. And then whenever these things come to light, even though it's been on TV, it's been proven by anthropologists, archaeologists, it's been proven by many things. Like as far as you can go, right? I mean, there's no way to know completely. But if you go by the signatures and the writings and all that, it's not King James writing. It's not William Shakespeare's handwriting. It's Bacon's handwriting. When we compare the demonology book to the Bible, there's some similarities, which is why I said maybe he edited that book too, but for the most part, it's not even close to, and this is the thing, right? Anybody can try to use that, but okay, so Bacon's so-called work in the Bible almost looks like King James demonology book. So maybe it was King James, whatever, maybe. But Francis Bacon made a lot more books, and every one of his books, plus all the Shakespeare fucking plays, are exactly the same writing. It's exactly as the Bible, and similar to the one King James book, but not the same. So what we can derive from that is, okay, there's a difference between the King James book and Francis VIII, but both these guys were intelligent enough and taught how to correctly write. Whereas Shakespeare was not, because his signatures weren't even barely legible or completed, okay? So we can rule Shakespeare out from writing anything. That guy's done. It was either Yeats or King James. Now, King James is different from all the other Yeats collections, including Shakespeare and the Bible, if we put that in place. But we'll just keep the Bible in the middle between these two guys first. And then you look at King James's book. So King James' book is different enough that we can say, okay, it most likely wasn't the same person who written the Bible or all those other works. But then Yeats is exactly the same as the Bible and all those other works, plus all his books. He's got a fuckload of books. I mean, I've counted at least 10 so far, and I didn't even get to all of them. There's at least 10 books. I've read 2. I mean, I've read all Albert Pike's shit. I've read all Manly P. Hall shit. And I fucking listened to all of that. I mean, I'm not kidding people when I say I've been listening to this. I was an armchair occultist for a long time. Do you know how many books you can read and videos you can watch when you're pretending to be a fucking occultist? And you need to know your shit if you're going to pretend to be an occultist. You're going to need to know your shit. And I knew my shit. I still know my shit. But now I practice because I got to a point where it's like, okay, Mom, I don't know if any of this is real. I'm talking, I wasn't making videos, but I thought about making videos at that time. But it's like, I don't know if any of this is going to work. I have all this theory and I don't have any tangible results. So put it to practice. And the minute I started, it just everything else went away. I was so locked into the process. It was unbelievable. But anyways, so what you can derive from what I just said, if it's up to you, derive whatever the fuck you want. I'm not trying to tell you what to believe. But the most likely author of the Bible was Francis fucking Bacon, okay? That's just It's pretty obvious. At least the editor, sorry, not the writer, the editor, he edited the Bible. For all the times I said written, I mean edited. He edited the Bible, okay? He added his style, techniques, symbols, all that to the Bible. And when he did all that, oof, God, gross. When he did all that, now we have what we have. We have this Bible that has lots of meaning in it, that has lots of symbolism in it, potentially even gematria, but who the fuck's gonna do all that? I mean, who knows? Some of these people really fucking did some crazy, fucked up shit back in the day. You know, all these different codes and all these different things, like, just insane. So it's very possible. But overall, I want to, I mean, why do the Masons and the Illuminati get such a bad name? Well, just even in this thing, Albert Pike and all these guys are defending the name Lucifer. Okay, why would they add Lucifer into the Bible? And this is their buddy, a Mason buddy. Why would they do this shit? And it's like to attribute that. So it's like King James had some pull. King James was there to make sure the Mason didn't go overboard with occult and Masonic things. However, the Mason made sure to do enough that the symbolism can be seen through, and you won't be misled by it. So King James is like, no, you can't write this, write it like this. No, you can't write it like this, write it like this. That was his fucking job. So his fingerprint is in that fucking book. But Francis used his style of writing and everything to do it. It's guaranteed. 100%. And like this Christian bitch, like I said, sorry, she's not a bitch. This Christian lady has been believing this Bible her entire fucking life. And to find out that a Mason wrote it, somebody who actively says Lucifer is not a bad being that was added to the Bible, that's bullshit. You know, that's just, can't have that. You can't have somebody who thinks Lucifer is a cool guy writing the Holy Bible that you fucking believed your whole life. You can't have somebody who's a human being writing and editing the Word of God. To have a king do that. Well, a king is a human being like everybody else. You know, even if King James did fucking edit it, it still makes it less the Word of God. You know, these lines that he added, "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live." The Pharmakia translation turned into witchcraft and sorcery. He had a real problem with witchcraft and sorcery, and that was a real problem back then, apparently. And it's like, well, what the fuck? Why do you care? And it's like, well, he's a king. And a king can rule over people. If people have the power to do inner magic, alchemy, and change their life, like today, for example, then the king can have absolutely all the power he wants and all the money he wants, but we can manifest our own reality and fucking fix our lives. And then the king won't have the power he has. So this king doesn't want magic, burns all these witches, goes on this big witch hunt, does all this shit, even makes a book about demonology, which was Wicca. Okay, Wicca, you know, the Wiccan shit, right? Wicca published King James fucking book. It's the Wicca school of something, I can't remember it, but that girl was talking about last night. I looked it up, it's for real. Because she was like, she was listening to Francis talk. She was reading Francis's book. This is a Christian chick, and I gotta give her that, man. She looks on both sides of the fence, man. She's very programmed by her own beliefs, but she looks on both sides of the fence. But she was reading Francis's book, and Francis mentions that King James wrote a book. And she's like, what? One book, only one. So, and he's a king, man. He was a king. He's probably fucking busy as shit. So yeah, why would he write books? You could have people write books for him, you know. But anyways, so she hears Francis say that King James wrote a book, so she goes and gets that book, and she's like, of all places, the book that was written by King James was published by Wiccans. And again, on the back of the book, it says something to the effect of, this book, Demonology, was written by King James, and it should be on every witch's shelves or mantle as a reminder of what can happen when a king who hates women or witches or whatever gets into power. And that's not word for word, not even close to word for word, but basically it was to tell us and remind us that, you know, what can happen. Like, this guy wrote all this shit about demonology and demons and witchcraft and all that. I mean, it's really not demonology, but anyways, and all because of he was scared that regular people might be able to dethrone him and get power and get money and whatever else. You know what I mean? And like, it's ridiculous. You know, and he had the same power as everybody else. That's the thing about magic and religion, for example, or at least it should be. But religion, within the religion, it tells you everybody's equal, but then it has a hierarchy within itself that puts the kings and the priests and the popes above everybody else. But within what they teach you, it's like, we're all equal. But don't come on my fucking little step, come near my altar. I'll come down to you and give you that bread. You don't come up here unless you got one of these white fucking blankets to wear. But anyways, so yeah, King James wrote that book, and it was published by Wicca, which is fucking weird, but it's fucking cool. I'm glad they did that. It can show how they're depolarized and show how they're not so, you know, it's like King James persecuted our people, but we are actually evolved and forgiving, and we can, you know, publish this book that this king who fucking hates us and give it as a warning, and, you know, whatever, blah, 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 blah. Who's more balanced? You know, the fucking Christians that are going around trying to kill us and hate us and want to prove that whatever, or the people that are trying to get along with everybody, the witches and the magical practitioners? You tell me. I think we're a little more civilized. All right, so, but anyway, so this woman went through all her information, and she goes, this goes way back to when King James was born and how his mother was killed and locked up and blah, 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 blah. But within her entire thing, all her facts were, she was trying to say that Francis Bacon did not edit the Bible and that King James did. But within their whole thing, it was all based on, she took everybody who agreed that Francis did in fact write it and said they were wrong, all because of, I think, of King James's book Demonology, how he had scriptural knowledge. So it was him who actually did it. So she didn't have any actual real fucking facts, and it was all based on just her speculation that I believe that King James wrote it. It's like, that's horseshit. It was all bullshit. All right. So the last thing I was speaking about was how that woman, after the whole 3 hours, she didn't have any substantial proof to say that it wasn't Francis Bacon. She simply was just going by her intuitional feeling that it wasn't him. And then there's many people that were, many people that were trying to prove that King James might have had homosexuality tendencies, might have been gay, or a Satanist. Not Satanist. I can't remember the word. Maybe a Satanist. Not as in a satanic, as in a sadist, you know, being... Anyways, because of all the women he was going after. Okay, or he hated women. And so there's like many people that have given books of proofs, and then she said there's one guy who went against that to prove the opposite. But it's like you only have one guy versus all these other people, you know? And that's all she needs, right? Because she's a Christian and she just believes whatever. As long as there's one person out there, well, they're right and everybody else is wrong. You know what I mean? She's trying to make the case that she's right and all these other people are wrong. Yet these other people are archaeologists, anthropologists. They're all proving and using facts, where she's just using a timeline of when the king was born and all this. She just shoots a whole bunch of facts at you of the timeline and what was going on, and then she gives you her opinion of what happens. It's just like, no, I almost felt bad for her, because it's like none of it's good. And I mean, during this interview, she had such a hard time talking at some point. She had to keep clearing her throat, and then when she was saying some things that are pretty intense and very wrong, she would not even be able to speak. It's like, babe, this is your fucking part of you telling you to shut the fuck up. You don't know what you're talking about. But anyway, that's not to be mean, but it's something you see often, you know. Anybody who's of the Christian faith, depending on what denomination. Some are worse, some are better, and some of them have different books and all that. But she was going into the New Age conspiracy, and the host of the show said, the New Age people or something to that effect, that they like to think when it says, I forget the Bible verse now, but Lucifer, morning star, why do you fall from heaven? And it's like, fuck off. But and then in I think Revelation, Jesus says he's the morning star, and she's like, people have put it together that Jesus is actually Satan. It's like, well, first of all, yeah, same thing. Satan is both good and bad. Lucifer is both good and bad. We are both good and bad. We have the capacity to do both. And that's one way you could read that, but that's not what it means. But she was trying to make the thing that there's all these deceptions out there, blah, 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 blah. But it's like, you are deceiving people because you were simply just telling your opinion of why you think King James was the only one that edited the Bible, and how all this other proof and facts are just false. It's like, fuck off. I might play some of it for you just so you can hear the nonsense. But once again, I want to show you, I want to show everybody how I have both sides. I try to listen to both sides. Even though I'm very much against her side, I've given her the benefit of the doubt listening to her. And then to come to the conclusion that, I was waiting for her to drop these facts of how she knew King James was the one who edited it and wrote the Bible, how he was divinely inspired. And the only thing she came up with was the fact that he was so against witches and all that shit he took. Then she calls them all criminals, all the pagans, which this was the religion way before Christianity. So if anybody's a criminal, it's the Christians that came in and decided to say that they were right and everybody else was wrong, even though everybody else was doing these rituals and this way of life longer than Christianity, and they come in and they just deem them criminals. And people can say what they want. Well, those are criminals, and then it says in the Bible that you shouldn't do that shit. It's like, yeah, but that was changed by King James. He wrote the Bible, and he was the one making the law. And this is a problem. When the same person who can make laws is pretending to be God, in the sense of he's writing the Holy Bible and telling people that God said witchcraft is bad. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to enforce that law. It's like, no, you're saying witchcraft is bad because you don't want these people performing witchcraft, because you don't want them to be able to beat you or whatever the case is, which they wouldn't do that, by the way. And that's part of the whole doing magic. When you start doing the self-transformation process, of course there's people out there that do baneful magic and shit like that, but for the majority, people start doing magic, if they do a transformation process anyways, I can only attest to that because that's what I do. But then you start becoming more evolved, and you're able to not be petty and want to harm people. Yeah, it's a buddy of mine, sorry. But yeah, so he had this problem with witches, and he literally writes the law and then enforces the law. He's the judge and the executioner there. And this is why, one of the reasons why, the monarchy is not great, because it's all based on one person. And you'll have royal people he can consult with, royal consultants and stuff like that. But for the most part, he gets to make the law, he gets to change the law as he wants. It's just not a balanced way of doing it. If he's having a bad day or in a bad mood that day, then what? Then he can just go and fucking kill a bunch of witches? Oh wait, that's exactly what he fucking did. And so, but I have a big problem with a lot of people who are of the Christian faith, who like to pronounce that everybody's equal, everybody loves everybody, we're all part of God, and they go out there and they start condemning everybody else, and pagans and all these pagan communities and witchcraft people. And it's like, okay, honey, you think the pagans are criminals and all that, right? Okay, let me play something for you right now, okay? And show you how Christianity is more pagan than you fucking think.
When is Easter 2021? This year, Easter will be observed on Sunday, April 4th. Eastern Orthodox Easter will take place on Sunday, May 2nd. This Easter is just 1 week after March's full moon, Sunday, March 28th, which is the first full moon to occur after the spring equinox March 20th, 2021, and is therefore known in the Christian calendar as the Paschal full moon. What is the most common Easter date? Easter is a movable feast and does not have a fixed date, however. It is always held on a Sunday between March 22nd and April 25th.
Holy fuck, eh? Like kaboom. Drop the bomb. Most Christians probably don't know that. Some of them may. But every Easter depends. The date on the Easter is always after the first full moon after the spring equinox. Witchcraft is heavily based on the goddess, the moon, Diana, her daughter, Aradia, okay? We use the moon for our magic. The moon is the nighttime, it's the subconscious mind. We have 8 high holy days of the year, 4 of which are the equinoxes and the solstices. And there's another 4, like, Beltane and Samhain, and the other 2. But point is why would Christianity celebrate Jesus Christ's resurrection? Why would that depend on the first full moon after the equinox? If you can't see that is more pagan than anything else, then you are blind and you don't know your own fucking faith. Alright? That's what I have to say to any Christian out there who's like, this guy's totally off base. The Illuminati and Masons didn't edit the Bible, and Christianity is not any kind of paganism, and pagans are criminals. It's like, well, then you're a fucking criminal too, because you're celebrating the fucking resurrection of the sun, the actual sun in the sky, not Jesus, after the first full moon after the equinox. That's pretty fucking pagan if you ask me. Anyways, let's get back to Manly P. Hall and Robert Seffer now.
Bacon is author and honorary 33-degree Mason Manly P. Hall, who in 1929, at a lecture titled Rosicrucian and Masonic Origins, said, quote, "The first edition of the King James Bible, which was edited by Francis Bacon and prepared under Masonic supervision, bears more Mason's marks than the Cathedral of Strasbourg." And that's coming from Manly Hall, who literally wrote the book on Masonic symbolism. Dr. H. Spencer Lewis, Imperator of the Rosicrucian Order during the 1920s and 30s, said in the April 1930 edition of Rosicrucian Digest, quote, "The Bible, which all of us read and admire from a literary point of view because of its peculiar and beautiful English, was written in that form by Bacon, who invented and perfected that style of English expression. The first editions of the Bible were printed under the same guidance and in the same manner as were the Shakespeare plays, and the ornaments for the various pages were drawn in pen and ink and on wood by artists engaged by Bacon, who worked under his supervision. Every one of the ornaments concealed some Rosicrucian emblem, and occasionally a Masonic emblem, or some initials that would reveal Bacon's name, or the name of the Rosicrucians. Some ornaments were put not only in the Christian Bible that Bacon had rewritten, but in the Shakespeare plays, and in some of Bacon's own books, and a few other books that were typically Rosicrucian in spirit.
Alright, so the man you just heard, what he said is pretty profound. Not profound, but you know what I mean. It's fucking saying that Bacon created that style of English, that's the way the Shakespeare plays are, and the saying that's in the Bible, and it's not that any like the emblems that were in the Bible that are Rosicrucian and Masonic. There are Rosicrucian and Masonic symbols that are in Bacon's books and in the Bible and in the Shakespeare plays. So this is how we can tell that it's most likely him, that we can't know something 100%, but it's most likely been edited and rewritten by a Masonic, Rosicrucian, Illuminati motherfucker. And, like I said, back to this Christian chick that I was talking about, that I'll play a bit for you so you can hear her. In King James's demonology book, he doesn't have those emblems. His style of English is similar because he was taught similar English, but it's not the same. He did not write this Bible. He oversaw the actions, hence why the Masonic, Rosicrucian, Mason had to hide things in plain sight. Now, I'm not trying to say that Masons are good guys. I'm not trying to say that, you know, the Rosicrucian, you should follow them. Although Rosicrucianism is something you should look into and you should look at and see what their beliefs are. It's something very not understood. Because even in that girl that I'm talking about, the Christian, one of the things I looked for the opposing views of, there's one place where it says, King James, what was King James she's talking about, who got killed? And it says the evidence and the person who killed him was a Christian. She's like, but I don't believe that. I believe it was the Rosicrucians or something to that effect. And it's like, once again, these are your beliefs that have no facts behind it, just because it doesn't fit your little narrative. So whenever you don't have facts that you can twist to go with what you want to happen, right? Because she wants a certain narrative, and there's certain facts that she can pull out, and some people have same thing as her, who were pissed off when their beliefs were tested, so they wrote pages and books about it. But there's always one Christian to like 10 other people's facts of actual history. And anyways, so, and then whenever there's straight up no evidence for her to pull on, it's just like, but I don't believe that, because I believe it was the Rosicrucians that killed him, because, well, he didn't like the Rosicrucians, and there was a really heavy alchemy and pagan going blah 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 blah. Like, fuck, man, like, why does it matter? Sorry about that. One of my little daughters came to the car. But yeah, I don't like that at all. You know, people just saying shit isn't real because they fucking think or feel it's not real. It's like, get some facts going. But anyways, Rosicrucianism has a lot of the same beliefs that I have, or, you know, believe in. But that's besides, I guess, the point. But the main point I want to put out here is, I guess, to, you know, because I got a bunch of messages not that long ago about 3 different people. I made a whole video about it, but 3 different people asking me why Thunder Wizard's hiding the real version of the Bible. He says the Bible doesn't hold any fucking whatever, it's just for a victim. And then in one of the videos he says, if you want to learn about Jesus, why the hell do you have a King James Bible? You know? And he made this weird fucking face. And then the same people, some of my viewers, said, what the fuck, what does that mean? Blah 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 blah. Why would he say that? That means something. And now, with this information that I'm putting out here today, I think I have a better grasp of what he meant by that, whether he knows it or not. But the King James Bible is edited by a Mason and retranslated and added a whole bunch of different fucking words and changed the meaning. So the previous Bibles before the King James Bible was closer to the Word of God and shit like that, whereas now it's, I'd say it's more archetypal, and there's more stuff in there that you can use to your benefit, to enlighten yourself and help yourself become more spiritual, and whatever the case is. But that doesn't mean the older translations don't have anything of value either, but those would be more closer to the original source if you think there's some value in that. Now, I can't tell you for sure or not for sure, because some of those stories are fucked, some of those stories are okay. I think there's knowledge in most of these stories. I think what Bacon did was take very archaic, hard to understand languages from a previous time, even, you know, pretty old to him, and change those stories so they were more modern for the people of that time, which to us is still pretty, you know, because it's like fucking 400 years ago, more than 400 years ago, when this was happening. Like, this started happening like in the 1590s or whatever, like that, something to that effect. But, and then, you know, 1611 is the first King James Bible, or one of the King James Bibles. I don't know if that's the first one or not. I think it is, but that's the one I have, 1611, and I have one from 15 something too, but I don't know if it's King James. But anyways, point is, oh fuck, what's my point again? Oh yeah, point is that this one was recreated with stuff by a Mason, deliberately, probably on purpose. Now you could say, well then, if all these guys think that Lucifer is not a bad name, then why would he put that name in there? And I got 2 answers for you for that, and I don't know which one's real. One is either King James said no, add the devil in there, Lucifer in there, because there is no devil. Christians need the devil because they need something to blame for their bad acts to happen. Because it's not them, it's not God. They need Lucifer. But God created Lucifer for a reason then, which we created Lucifer, we created God. So we created those guys for a reason. And yeah, maybe it is just to have a deity to ask to fucking knock off the bad shit. Kind of like what you would do with one of the other deities that are of a baneful nature. Seth, whatever. Scar from Lion King, you know, the evil uncle, Osiris, and his brother. They get into a fight. You give him an offering and say, thank you for not fucking up my life. You know, something like to that effect. And then this way, there's something you can do about shitty circumstances instead of just blaming the fucking devil and not giving any offerings and calling him bad names and think that's somehow going to help you. Only believing in God. God's with a good force. He doesn't control the bad force. You can say, oh yeah, he does. Oh yeah? Then where's the evidence of that? If God controls the bad force, then why is there so many bad things that happen? Why does he come down here and change it? Well, it's up to us to fucking fix it. Yeah, well, that's probably the most truthful thing you Christians say, that it's our choice. But it's more than our choice. It's our creation. We create what happens here. And you can call me a criminal pagan if you want, and I'm a blasphemer or whatever the case is, but that's the truth. You guys are waiting for this fucking fictional character for over 2,000 years to come. He hasn't come anytime yet. He's not coming. No one's coming to fucking save you. Get on board with that idea so you can begin to start your life, so you're not just waiting around for fucking salvation from Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ is not coming to save you. Nobody's coming to save anybody. You gotta save your fucking self. And it's gonna take work, but in theory it's not very hard. But in practice, it can be very hard. But it's very much worth it. It's the best thing you can start doing. But anyways, so how does everybody feel about the Illuminati? And it's not really Illuminati, like, it's a Mason, but I just know a lot of people lump those together, so I just clickbait, I guess. But how do y'all feel about a Mason writing this holy Bible? Is that okay for everybody? Is that something we're going to be okay with, or is it now a reason to shoot that out? Think about it. This Bible is used in our court, our law system. We use this Bible in court whenever we have someone we want them to swear on the holy Bible. You know, it's some holy object, okay? But it was created, the one we use in the court system anyways, was created, edited by a king and a Mason. Now, how do you feel about that? Does that make it better or worse? For me, it makes it better. I'm not gonna lie. Now that I know the King James Bible was edited by a Freemason, I think it makes it better. I'm not necessarily saying that it's, you know, got more value than the older ones, but I think it makes it cooler and better that I know that somebody who practices spirituality similar to mine helped edit that book. Now, I still don't like the fact that it says shit in there like suffer a witch to live instead of suffer a poisoner to live, which is the original line, or Pharmakeia changed to sorcery and witchcraft. I don't like those things. And who knows, that might not even be his fault. That could be just all King James, because it sounds like what King James would do. Because I read his demonology book, and I know how much he hates fucking witches and witchcraft. So those things seem like they're straight up from there, but then there's contradictory information after that also within that. So anyways, I'm gonna listen to what I already made so far and write down the ideas that I need to close out and go from there. But you're not gonna know. So anyways, I'll let Robert Seffer finish up for you right now, and then I'll be back on after.
Edwin D. Lawrence, author of Bacon is Shakespeare and the Shakespeare Myth, said in a lecture in 1912 that, quote, "The 1611 King James Bible is ornamented with Bacon's symbols, and in my own special copy of the Record edition, also dated 1611, these symbols are Rosicrucianly marked to call the attention of the initiated to them and to tell them that the 1611 Bible is without possibility of doubt one of Bacon's books. When Bacon was born, English as a literary language did not exist, but once he died, he had succeeded in making the English language the noblest vehicle of thought ever possessed by mankind. This he accomplished merely by his Bible and his Shakespeare. Now, I know this is a controversial topic for many people, and I'll leave it to the viewer to make up their own mind as to what books or sources they derive their spiritual guidance from. That said, I just wanted to point out that regardless of who translated the King James Bible, or if it was encoded with Gematria, or edited by Francis Bacon or someone else, it was largely based on the most common manuscripts available at the time, particularly the Byzantine family of Greek translations. So while many people consider the Bible, particularly the King James Version, as the direct inspired word of God, I just want to point out that it was based on a small percentage of material from a much larger selection of material, much of which has come to light after the book was compiled and published. One example being the Nag Hammadi Library, a collection of 13 ancient books containing over 50 texts discovered in Upper Egypt in 1945, and thought to have been entirely destroyed during the early Christian era. Its translation was not only completed in the 1970s, and not only contains much of the same material, but expanded versions of it, and other scriptures, such as the Gospel of Thomas, which I will cover in a future video. Another example not included in King James, yet was very popular in the ancient world, was the Book of Enoch, ascribed by tradition to Enoch, the great-grandfather of Noah. While I already covered this previously more than once, I will cover it again, focusing on parts that expand on the sections of Genesis, speaking to the Nephilim who lusted after the beautiful daughters of men and took them as wives and impregnated them, only briefly alluded to in King James, in an obviously incomplete fashion. In closing, I would like to quote one more Masonic author, Carl Claudy, who said, "Cut through the outer shell and find a meaning. Cut through that meaning and find another. Under it, if you dig deep enough, you may find a third, a fourth. Who shall say how many teachings?" My name is Robert Sepper. I'm an anthropologist. You can find my published books on Amazon. They make a great gift. I'd like to thank those who support me through patreon.com. There should be a link below for those that are interested. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I also would like to extend my gratitude to anyone who shares these videos, as I rely on word of mouth. Please remember to hit the like button and also to subscribe for future updates. As always, I look forward to reading your thoughts in the comments section, so please leave me a comment below. Have a wonderful weekend, and I hope to see you again soon.
Canadians are...
Okay, so that was the finale of the first part of Sefer, of how Masonic and Grand Chancellor and all this other shit, philosopher, scientist, fucking creator of the English language, or at least the person who made it very popular and changed how it was written and spoke. Francis Bacon edited the Bible. Now, from what I gather and how I interpret it, he had the translations, and that's what he edited, and then handed those in. Now, someone might have been after him, such as the king, who, okay, this is all good, I'm going to change this word to witchcraft, change this word to sorcery, change this to not poisoner, scratch that out, suffer a witch to live. You know, who knows? That's just my belief and what I think happened, but I don't know. I could be wrong. All that's to say is, especially that last quote that you heard, read the book, read through all the symbolism, take their meaning, and then cut through those meanings and take that meaning, you know, however they worded that was beautiful. And that's what you can do with the Bible. It's very much possible to gather the symbolism and the archetypal and the beautiful stories in there that teach us a lesson. It's possible. I think the reason it's very possible now is because of Francis Bacon. Even more than that, all the symbols that were put in there is to tell the new initiates of whatever you want to call it, magic, Kabbalah, if you want to call it just New Age or witchcraft, whatever the case is. When you see these symbolisms and you are of not sound mind, but you're looking into this stuff, when you see this shit, now the new Bibles probably have that all taken out of it, so you have to get your hands on a 1611 one and take a look at that shit, because it's beautiful. It's absolutely fucking fantastic, and all those little symbols in there will stimulate your mind in a way you have no idea. But nonetheless, all this is to say is it's just to put out, for one, it was for all those viewers who were commenting way back when about it. I figured let's give them an episode about a little more about the Bible and what Thunder Wizard may have meant. But he's a very avid critic, there's a word, for the Bible, saying that the whole thing is just made to make you a victim. Now, there is a lot of truth to that. However, if you can separate yourself from the beliefs that you were put into you as a child, a young adult, if you can separate yourself from those and no longer be those beliefs and have your whole life guided by those beliefs, and then that you empty your cup, you empty your mind, you empty the subconscious of those beliefs, then you can look at that Bible and find the meaning that the Masonic, the Illuminati, and when I say Illuminati, I don't mean some evil group running the world making you poor, because that's bullshit. That's not what's happening. I'm talking about guys who found spirituality, realized what the church may have been up to, and people like King James was trying to do, and intervened. Because, you know, if you look at the credentials that Francis Bacon had, it makes sense that the king went to him to help with this Bible thing, because he was a great writer, he knew philosophy, and, you know, even Masons to this day, you have to believe in God to be a Mason on the outside. Now, what happens on the inside of there is a whole different story. But they do believe in some supreme beings, just like the Rosicrucian, just like the Gnostics, all these groups, okay? I'm not saying they're not all the same group. That's just stupid. That's like saying all these different types of witchcraft, like the fairies and, you know, darker magicians like Eo Quetting are the same as these white kitchen witches and shit like that. It's like, no, they're all fucking different. All of them are different. But they do have commonalities, just like Protestant, Roman Catholic, First Baptist. They're not all the same religion, even though they're all under the same banner, but they have lots of commonalities. But all that's to say is it was intervened. Either he was asked to intervene or it was divinely done, because, you know, let's say if you believe in there's like some divine God, well, this happened for a reason. That Bible was whatever it was before Francis Bacon got in there and changed everything. And whatever you want to think about the English language and what was done, we are at a place in time that it's better than it's ever been before. And you might look at your life and say, that's impossible, my life sucks. But I guarantee you, unless you're on the street with a cell phone right now watching me, broke, somehow having Wi-Fi on the street, unless you're that person right now, you are in a house, you have electricity, you have a phone or a computer or some type of whatever. There's a lot of people that died for us to get to where we are today. We're not in a 30-year war or even a World War II scenario. We're not in a Cold War scenario where someone might drop a nuke and that's the end of the world. We're not in the Civil War, whatever you believe about that. We're not in any of these archaic old times where it's killed or be killed. We're not in any of that. We are in the best time that's ever been around. And, you know, Jupiter and Saturn, you know, lining up against each other at the end of the age of Pisces and the beginning of the age of Aquarius. I mean, to me, that's another no-brainer, man. This is clearly the beginning of that new time, or the ending, at least, of Pisces. And we're going out with this bang, or we're starting with a bang. The king, the god of expansion, against the king and the god of restriction, are two polarities within all of us, up there, battling out, because we're battling it down here, as above, so below. That's what's going on right now. We're either at the ending or the beginning. I can't tell you for sure, because who the fuck knows? Astrology is a science, but because it takes so long, like what's a great year, 22 or 2400 years? That's one cycle. That's from going from Pisces to Aquarius, or from Taurus to Aries, or from Aries to Pisces. That's all it takes. So it's very hard to have commonalities and the same consequences after doing certain things whenever something takes that long to see the results. That's why you can't quantify or scientifically prove astrology. But there are little things you can do to show what works within your own lifetime, but you have to use the faster planets, like the moon, Mercury, even Jupiter and Saturn. It takes 7 years for Saturn, but you can still every 7 years mark it down and realize, like, fuck, I did something like that, whatever the case is. Anyways, it doesn't matter. But Francis Bacon and King James, they wrote this thing, and this thing happened for a fucking reason. And whether that's to get everybody off of that shit now, because it's no longer serving us, maybe all that bloodshed had to happen, which I don't like to say. I don't like to say all those witches had to die, because they might not even been witches. They might have just been people he didn't like. But I don't like saying all that had to happen just for us to get where we are today. But it might be a possibility. And I can't tell you if that's accurate or inaccurate. But what I can tell you is there was a lot of bullshit that happened in the past. But if you really, truly believe in that book, then I would suggest trying to get a copy of the one where these symbols and all that shit is inside of it, so you can see exactly what we're talking about here and see it for yourself, that there's no way that a witch-hating, magic-hating king wrote that with all that symbolism in there. And if you do have the mind of Illuminati symbols are all bad and they're there to fuck you up, well, maybe you shouldn't look at it. But maybe if you could put that at the door for a second and realize that that's not true, that's something that was fed to you by some organized religion who doesn't want you to have power, like King James didn't want anybody else to have their own power in fear that he be overthrown, okay? That was fed to you as a lie, that all these symbols are going to do you harm. They're actually going to illuminate shit to you. When you see these specific sigils and symbols, what happens is your mind opens up. You realize that there's fucking way more to this. You don't understand how you know it, but when you look at it, you just know that there's way more that you don't fucking know. And then you might get semi-obsessed to finding out, but these things are meant to stimulate you, and it will. Now, you don't have to do that, but if you can, I think it's a good idea, especially if you're one of these people that want to use the Bible in your spirituality. I don't typically use the Bible in my spirituality, but I do use it from time to time because it's helped evolve our culture, good and badly, both. So it's something important to know how our culture has evolved throughout the last 2,000 fucking years because of this damn book. And then in 1611, how it was changed. And we are seeing the results of that change. And you can say it was bad, it was bad, it was bad, all you want, but things were worse before 1611. Now, bad things happened after 1611 as well, but we are now at a pretty damn good spot. So when things get changed in the last 400 and some years, and now we're way off better, to me that tells me he did something right. But that's just my opinion. Anyways, let's look at what happened. Let's look at that 30-year war. Let's look at what the Protestants, which means protest. And I'm not for or against the Roman Catholics or the Protestants. To me, they both have interesting ideas. If I was to go with one of these, I do like the Jehovah's Witnesses version of like the Watchtower, the Watchers and shit like that. Although they claim evil and shit like that, but I like those ideas probably the best. I think my Roman Catholic that I technically am, though, is the most loosely and pagan version of Christianity, to be completely honest, and I'm glad that's the one that I am technically on paper. That's not what I practice, but that's what I am on paper. And like the example I gave you with Easter, there's Halloween and there's Christmas. This is a very pagan version of Christianity. And anybody wants to dispute that, you have my information, you have my email, you have my phone numbers, and you know how to contact me. My Instagrams and everything are all there. You can contact me easily and we can have a nice debate about it. I'd be willing to go up against anybody and show you exactly what I mean by that. But anyways, let's show you about the 30-year war. Let my Robert Seffer do his, I always forget the name. It's not an archaeologist, it's anyways, let him show you what the fuck it was about.
When the ancient Roman Empire fell around the year 500, it created a power vacuum, with Europe in poverty and stagnation for centuries, which history calls the Middle Ages. It was during this time when Catholicism emerged as the dominant force in Europe, with the tallest and richest structures in town being the Roman Catholic Church. Basilicas modeled after large, ornate Roman law courts. Catholicism was Roman because the Church ruled from Rome, and the word Catholic means universal, with the Church attempting to provide unity and a degree of stability to a fractured Europe. Essentially, the fallen Roman Empire was now replaced by the Holy Roman Empire. What were once Roman senators were now called bishops, and what was once the Roman emperor was now called the Pope. Where the old Roman Empire once had many slaves, the new term used by the Church became feudalism, with the nobility owning the land and the Church as the educated elite, and European peasantry, about 90% of the population, doing all the hard labor. Life was hard. Disease, like the plague, was common, and the punishments were very severe and cruel. While the Church promised eternal happiness and paradise in the afterlife, most of their resources went to building magnificent cathedrals filled with beautiful artwork and stained glass, with the general illiterate population kept either in awe and expectation or in guilt and in fear. Since the Bible at the time was written in Latin, a language commoners were not able to read, the peasants relied on the clergy as middlemen between themselves and God in heaven. With time, the Roman Catholic Church grew increasingly corrupt, to the point that they would sell certificates to the wealthy, excusing them of their sins. A letter from the Pope, which was sort of like a coupon, excusing one of their sins and guaranteeing them a place in heaven when they died, for the right price, of course. This sort of religious, spiritual bribery did not sit well with many Europeans, with popes and the church hierarchy living in lavish luxury, which leads us to a German priest named Martin Luther, a son of a relatively well-off miner who was afforded the luxury of a top education for the time, who started questioning the church's corruption and felt it was abusing its power, and so the church excommunicated him and went on a killing spree which resulted in the extermination of any group it saw as heretical, such as the Cathars, usually by burning them alive. This tactic might have been effective in the past, but with the advent of the printing press, Luther's criticisms gained an even larger following, resulting for the first time in translated copies of the Bible reaching the masses, where the Word of God was now available to ordinary people to read and interpret for themselves, eroding the church's monopoly and therefore its power. This gave rise to the Christian split between the Catholic Church and the Protestants, which comes from the word protest. With the Bible now translated into German, English, and French, the languages spoken by most of the general public, the Protestant movement grew into a revolution, the Protestant Reformation, and what is remembered as the 30 Years' War. In 1618, in modern-day Czechoslovakia, or the Czech Republic plus Slovakia, which back then was called Bohemia, the Protestants there resisted Catholic rule by throwing a Habsburg representative out of the third-story window of a Prague castle, an incident known as the Defenestration of Prague. He survived the fall, if I'm not mistaken, by landing on a big pile of horse manure, but this act was a signal for the beginning of a Bohemian revolt against the Habsburg Emperor Ferdinand II, which marked one of the opening phases of the 30 Years' War, which was very bloody and grew to include most of Europe. In 1648, the Peace of Westphalia was signed, with the result being a weakened Holy Roman Emperor, the Dutch winning their independence from the Spanish, as well as Sweden gaining independence, and France also gaining territory. But it's difficult to declare a clear winner, other than to say, from this point on, freedom of religion gained acceptance with the people's right to private worship, and a large number of Christians now agreeing with Martin Luther that salvation was available through their faith alone rather than by performing church rituals or having to pay to get out of purgatory. My name is Robert Sepper. I'm an anthropologist. You can find my published book